Hello and welcome to a very special edition of All In, a women's sports podcast. I'm Gabby Price, joined on Zoom by Kurt Sippel and Mary Hannah Gallagher today. And we will be talking all things WNBA. We have a very special edition for you, kind of going over where we think the Liberty is going to go, and just in general what the WNBA has been up to during this postseason. We are right at the cusp of the start of the 2025 season. We are recording this on Thursday, May 15th. The season starts tomorrow, Friday, May 16th. But I think we're all particularly looking forward to Saturday when our reigning champs, the New York Liberty, will take on the Aces down in Brooklyn. So it's been a very exciting time, and we will have a lot to kind of get into and talk about. But before we do any of that, how are you guys? It's been a minute since I've kind of seen either of you, had to talk like this with either of you. So, what's going on?
I'm good. I'm happy that school's over. I'm gonna be so honest.
Yeah.
Excited to get to watch Liberty basketball again. Last season was really exciting, and it's gonna be even more exciting now.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Excited to I really like that women's basketball is when we don't have anything going on, really, like over the summer. So the only thing to do is take in women's basketball. I really like that. But other than that, I'm really good. Happy to be home.
Yeah, I love that, Mary. I think that's a really good point. Can really spend all of our time watching some New York basketball, New York Liberty basketball. So let's jump right into it. I kind of want to start with, the Liberty coming off a winning season, reigning national champions. They're in a good place. Obviously, I think they're very confident they will have their banner raising on Saturday, which will be very exciting to see. But they're in a good place, I think, especially offensively. In terms of their defensive end of the court, losing Lainey Hamilton is a little bit of a blow, but hopefully shouldn't be too much of a problem for them, having such a deep roster. But where do you guys think that this Liberty team is right now, coming off a winning season? And where do you see, or how do you see this Lainey Hamilton knee injury? She's out for the entirety of this 2025 season. How do you see this affecting this team? Mary Hannah, do you want to start?
Well, the Liberty's success was really built off of noticeable improvement throughout the season under their head coach, Sandy. But it became like really more disciplined as the year went on. And I think that we're going to see that again this year as intensity starts to shift because we need to realize that the teams that we're playing again this year, they didn't just stand still in time from who we beat last year. They're also constantly improving and getting more players and picking up skills that are meant to take down a powerhouse like the Liberty. So just really keeping hard on defense, but also trying to keep turnovers low as other defenses start to improve, I think is really going to carry us far into this season.
I'm very, Bernier Laney Hamilton gave the Liberty so much last season in the fact that like her defense, as well as she scored almost 12 points a game. So I think it's really difficult to see that while she's going to be out for the entire season, the Liberty also have another roster spot to add someone else. As well, you don't really lose anybody. Like you still have Brianna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, and Jonquel Jones that have been that kind of spark that the Liberty have gotten throughout their entire season. But Hamilton kind of just gave the Liberty, I guess, like their defensive cornerstone, I guess you could say. Like she led the defense, even when times got tough during the finals. I felt like that they relied on her a lot of the time to be like, all right, set up down on defense, and we'll come back. We can get buckets, but we need to defend. And I thought that she did a really good job at that. And I think that now the Liberty are gonna have to try to find someone else to do that. And is that like a Kennedy? Is that like maybe Brianna Stewart taking a different role on defense? But overall, it's not going to help the Liberty. But it's also like in 2023, she also got pretty badly injured with her knee injury. So I think all of this is just now trying to test whether or not the Liberty are built well enough to go back to back, which I think that they're probably one of the deepest rosters in the entire W.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think Kennedy Burke was someone that I was also looking at, maybe taking a bigger role in this roster this year. Obviously, you still have JJ, also another big one on that defensive end of the court. So I think that's what they're going to have to really look at. And I do agree. I think that this challenge will kind of cement whether they can hang. And like you said, Mary Hannah Gallagher, they only get better throughout the season. So really, like the beginning couple games of the season, even as much as the first half of the season, is not extremely telling of where they will be by postseason, which is a really good thing, I think, for us as Liberty fans and just as a team in general. And so that's why I personally don't think that their preseason loss to the Sun last week, they lost 86-94 um, down at the Barclays Center. I don't think that this was very worrisome at all. Obviously, um, beginning of the season, preseason, this was our first game. Uh, Dewey didn't play, which also major factor in this. She gives so much for their offense that I think this is more telling of what she brings to the court and what types of leadership Stewie brings offensively and just on the court for the Liberty. Um, but so I don't really think that this is too worrisome. It literally being the first game of the season. I don't know. Do you guys agree with me? Do you have any other takes on that?
I totally agree with you, especially with Stewie being out. But also, the preseason is meant to experiment with lineups and different rotations and kind of whip players back into game day shape. And having a loss like this to a team that's been really good historically, like the Sun, doesn't really concern me about how we'll shape up in the regular season.
Oh, I definitely agree. I just want like the one thing is that really only stood out to me a little bit more was the hustle plays that the Sun kind of out rebounded the Liberty 32 to 23, and they just and the second chance points were 23 to 10. So that's just the one thing that I know that the Liberty aren't ones to get down on themselves even last season with that kind of stuff because of how good they have been on defense as well as just their offensive prowess. But that's just something that like you cannot let that get through the cracks throughout the through the season. That like while Stewart was not playing, like just like seeing that happen is just something that I would sit down with the players and just tell them like, hey, like might it be preseason, but we cannot do this during the regular season. That's just the one thing that might worry me as a fan, but not really anything else. I don't think really mattered about this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you kind of mentioned, Mary Hannah, sorry. These teams have so much history that they've gone back and forth winning against each other the past couple seasons. So has been a rivalry, I guess you could say, for the very long time. So yeah, nothing too crazy, I think here, but I do think her like kind of to your point. Working on those hustle plays. And I think like even last season, they had to play a couple games without Stewie because she wasn't feeling well and she was injured for a couple games. So I think especially when we're talking about what do they have to do to two-peat to kind of find themselves in this finals area again. Not only avoid injuries, I think that's my number one. Don't let your players get injured. Keep your deep roster, but also kind of being able to keep up with the pace of the game, especially when so many teams in the W are looking different this year. But let's kind of get into a quick little prediction against the Aces Saturday. I have a feeling I'll know what you guys are going to say, but I still think we should go around. This is a very different Aces team this year, or maybe not very, but no Kay Martin this year, no Kelsey Plum. So, Kurt, do you want to start Aces versus Liberty? Who you got?
Well, I got the Liberty, of course,
Of
but
course.
I think that the one thing that I do like that the Aces did over the season is trying to improve their bench that has been kind of lacking. Saw that against the Liberty during the conference finals when before they went to the finals was just that they just did not have enough when the Liberty were going a little deeper into their bench as well, that the Aces just didn't have it. So I really like the move that you trade away Kelsey Plum for Jewel Lloyd, which was pretty good. And as well, just backing up for Asia Wilson, who an MVP who's always really great, but they need more if they want to compete with a team like the Liberty that have been so good for so deep, I guess you could say, instead, because that's why they had to make these moves. And they had a really good preseason as well, going for those two games that they won against the Wings and against, I think it was they blew out the Wings and then they had a win and then they had a 1 point win against the Mercury where Deja Kelly, their rookie, just scored 15 points, which I thought was really cool, showing off some prowess that they can draft well. But the Aces are going to come into this game with a chip on their shoulder. I think that's the one thing is you can't get punched in the mouth and be blindsided by that. So you got to come in fighting pretty much. And it's only the first game of the season, but that's going to be, I think, a dogfight for the first game of that, for the first game of the WNBA season.
Yeah, I totally agree, which is almost why I think the Aces might have a bit of the edge on the Liberty going into the game, just because the only things that really inspire me about a Liberty win is believing that Stewart and Ionescu will have a stellar game. And if that doesn't happen, which it might not, I mean, first game of the season, they maybe aren't really whipped into their prime of the season, which I don't think we should expect them to be. But without that reliance, it makes me want to give the Aces the win.
Listen, that's fair. I Ionescu did drop 25 in Oregon the other day, so I think that's something to be pretty optimistic about coming into first game of the regular season. I will also, I'm going to take Kurt's side here. I'm going to go Liberty in this just because also it's your banner game, first game of the season. You're at home. I think there's kind of going to be a great energy, a great feel on the court, in on the court, in stands, everything like that. So even if they don't all have their best performances, I think just being at home will kind of give them the momentum to fight against the Aces and hopefully pull this win. But let's transition into looking a little bit more generally at the W. I think we should start with the brand new team this season, the Valkyries. Um, they kind of pulled a bunch of people from a bunch of different rosters. Talking about the Aces, they took Kate Martin, which I think will be kind of exciting for her. She didn't get a lot of play time last year, but I think her on this new team, I actually really like it. She can kind of start to build a name for herself, build some confidence, maybe even show some of the leadership and skill that she had back at Iowa. Another interesting headline I thought was that they cut Caitlin Chen, who helped UConn this past season to UConn's national championship. I think there is something to be said about wanting more developed players on new teams like this and getting people with experience. But also, I think in particular, I'm kind of thinking about Tiffany Hayes. She has 12 years in the W, a guard just like Chen. But also for a brand new team, also kind of building up younger players, I think is important. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on this or any thoughts on the Valkyries in general. But how do you see them kind of making their W debut?
Well, I'm really excited just for expansion teams. I think that's always just really cool in general that the league is just growing to more teams and more audiences get to watch the W, especially for how great I think the last like maybe 5 seasons have been for the WNBA just as a whole. Is just really exciting that one, fan bases are getting to watch women's basketball at a higher scale. Two, that you're getting to watch all these all everyone compete and because the rosters are not as big, but now you can have more people getting on rosters, so you can see even more talent and better players on these teams that might not always get a chance. So for the Valkyries, I think that it's going to be really cool to watch them and see how they perform. I mean, it's never a great track record with history when first seasons and expansion drafts come into play because you don't always get the best players because of the blocking, whatever. But I think overall it's going to be really exciting. And they have a really interesting game against the Sparks. I mean, you get to see Cameron Brink play, you get to see basically a whole new retooled Sparks roster coming up against the brand new Valkyries. So it's like the Battle of California. So it's pretty cool. And I think that it's just something that's interesting to watch as a fan base.
Totally agree. I also think that I love the international kind of flavor that they have. Having players from all over the world
Yeah.
really, to me, reflects a global stage for women's basketball and will only bring in more fans from around the world. But other than politically, they have more experience on a world stage with players not only from the United States that really bring an edge to those players. And I loved seeing all of those people get into the mix of the WNBA. But also, sorry. I think that having that blend of veterans, which you kind of touched on, Gabby, really gives them an edge on having and training these younger players into becoming well-rounded and fully capable WNBA players for whatever team they go on, or even just carrying the Valkyries into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Valkyries will, we definitely will keep an eye on them this season, but I think as you mentioned, Kurt, looking ahead to later seasons, they're only going to get better with experience as they build team chemistry, as they build a fan base even too. So it should be really interesting. But I also did, the Sparks were also a team that I wanted to mention, so I'll just segue there really quick. I'm very excited to see Cameron Brink back. I did read that she's not going to come back until June. She's still recovering from that ACL injury from last year, but the Sparks did not have a good season last year, just flat out. They were last in the league. So hopefully this year, even having Kelsey Plum as guard, having a little bit more of a leader as a shooter on this team, I think will be very beneficial to the Sparks, helping them kind of climb the ranks a little bit. And once Brink is back, I'm really excited to see her on the court again. I don't think we did not see enough of her last year. She was so early into her season when she got hurt, which was really a bummer. But it will be a tough season coming back from that last place spot, but it should be very exciting to see them kind of hopefully break into this league a little bit and especially take on this new Valkyries team. They already played each other. The Sparks got the upper hand by 1 point, so this should be a very competitive first game of both of their seasons. But Mary Hannah, do you have anything you want to say about the Sparks, or was there anything else from this off season that you want to bring up in our conversation today?
Well, I find it really inspiring that the Sparks have gotten a new head coach to kind of carry them into this next season. I think that along with the offseason acquisition of Kelsey Plum, is really going to bring a whole new environment to the Sparks and maybe give them an edge just when it comes to energy and effort, especially Plum coming from the powerhouse team that is the Aces. She's really going to bring this energy of ready to win because that's what she's used to doing. She's used to winning. And I think that that's going to inspire the younger people that were maybe more used to winning in college when they played and really bring that back out in them and give this team a new power.
I was just gonna say I agree with Mary Hannah. Is just that I think this whole team relies on Kelsey Plum at the end of the day. I think that there's no other way around it other than you don't go out and get someone like Kelsey Plum unless you think that she's the person that's gonna lead you to at least not the last spot in the WNBA. And I like that you have her also maybe being a veteran presence with Brink is that these people can really help lock you in and train you to being, like Mary Hannah said, to being a winner. I think that that's one of the biggest issues is that you might not know what it's like to win at a higher level when you only won in college before. So, and everyone knows that winning at the higher levels always feels better than that. So, once that winning DNA comes in, I feel like it's all up for the Sparks, especially because their roster's pretty deep. I think it's relatively deep, and it's definitely better than last in the W. So I think overall, I think that they're going to be a lot better than they were last year. I think that just all relies on Plum's performance. I think that just leadership and performance.
Yeah, 100%. And I also think with Lynn Roberts as head coach, like you said, Mary Hannah, this is her first time as head coach in the W, but she has a ton of college coaching experience, especially getting teams to the NCAA. So, talking about creating kind of a winning culture, I think this is actually a pretty good head coach to have at the reins. It might be your first time, but I think there's sometimes a good element to that where it's all just kind of a experiment and everyone's willing to kind of lay what they have on the line. Um, Another kind of theme I think we would be remiss if we did not talk about is the fever. Obviously, Caitlin Clark. We might have another Clark versus Reese narrative again, but maybe a little different this time with Haley Van Lith now being in the W. But when we look at this Fever team, they've been looking really good in this preseason. They're 3-0, and potentially maybe one of the better teams this year. But one thing that I think was really good about their offseason was acquiring Sophie Cunningham from the Mercury. And not only in terms of her on the court presence, but she's been having really good court presence and chemistry with Caitlin Clark, which I think is needed and good to see that they're having that type of relationship off the court that they can then bring on the court together. And also Lexi Hull, who said that there's a different aura around Clark this year. So I think this is really exciting to see for this Fever team. There was obviously so much hype with Clark W's debut last year, but I think the Fever will have a much more exciting season this year and a better one at that too.
I think that it's just now that it's just more than the Caitlin Clark show. I think that that's what people also have to realize when they're watching is that there's so many other players on this Fever roster, especially with the offseason acquisitions of people really great scorers that I think that it's just going to be more. People have to realize it's going to be more than Caitlin Clark trying to go for 40 a night, maybe. And it's now just like the Fever are just a good basketball team. I think that that's more of the notes is that they're just going to be a really good basketball team. And I think they're going to be a little scary to go and face because last year, not as, not, sorry, I'm tripping up on my words. Last year, really not at all. But this year, I think they can be a really competitive force.
I totally agree. Especially think with the returning core players that you also kind of touched on, Gabby, like Kelsey Mitchell, who just signed a supermax contract. I mean, you don't sign a player to a supermax contract unless they really bring value to your team. And I think that she definitely does. And having Caitlin Clark out there, I think is really bringing in the fans. But I think that having this whole really deep roster is bringing in the like chemistry of the team to want to play for these people that are coming to watch them play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they did some of the best work in this offseason, maybe in terms of front office as well. I thought it was really impressive to see the different acquisitions, the contracts they were signing, and also just now seeing the different chemistry and leaders on the court the past couple of offseason games. I think it will be it's a great start for them, a great step in the right direction for the start of the season, and they will play the Chicago Sky, which classic narrative that is kind of carrying over from last season. And so I don't know how this Angel Reese and Haley Van Lith combination will work, if it will work. I think it'll be fun to see them again. You have Courtney Vandersloot on the team. I think that's a good addition for them. But do you guys think that the Sky have the talent and the depth, maybe more so, to a beat this Fever in this first game of the season and just throughout the season to have a winning record?
I definitely think that we shouldn't discount the Sky. I think that they're entering a new era of themselves, especially with acquisitions like you talked about, and having Courtney Vandersloot, who was really an elite point guard for the Liberty last season. But I don't know if they have the full versatility yet to be able to count them as like a conference leader. But I really like the direction of where they're going, and I think maybe they just need a couple more seasons to cook. But I just don't think they're there yet.
I was gonna fully agree. I think that right now their stars are young. I think right now that their people that they're relying on are a little too young to maybe have that winning times DNA kind of thing. Courtney Vandersloot is just like a really big addition to this roster. I remember how great, like Mary Hannah was saying, in last season, even reporting for WFUV on the Liberty a little bit, like how good she was and how much players were talking about how different she made the game for them just because she made it easier. I think that that's just the biggest part is that she makes it easier. So I think that that's going to really help Angel Reese, as well as Van Lith. But I don't know if it's going to really work starting out. I think that this team can be a powerhouse in 3 seasons, but I think that it's going to take a lot more offseason acquisitions and a lot more learning how to play with each other because I think that that's the hardest part is team chemistry. And I mean, they're going to have it for a little bit, but you got to really build that up.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with both of you. Um, I think it will be, I think they'll have an okay season. I don't think they're going to do great. I hopefully, or I don't know if they'll be the last in the league. I think they'll be like okay until they can kind of start figuring out some of that chemistry, like you were saying, Kurt. But another just rookie, feel like we need to highlight. And then if either of you have any other people or any other teams that you want to highlight. But I think we should just mention Paige Beckers on the wings. Starting out this preseason, she had a really good preseason game. Her last one, she had 15 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. So, kind of showing that her presence is immediately impacting this wings team. But yeah, so I think this is a wings team that will really benefit from Paige Beckers, even if she is not like she's not super familiar or even at that W level yet. But where do you guys see this wings teams going this season?
I got to say, it's probably, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say, I think it's probably very nice to be a Dallas sports fan, especially a basketball fan.
Yes.
You get
Yeah.
two of the best prospects on both of your teams, as well. Paige Beckers, I think we all kind of knew that Paige Beckers was going to come into the W and be able to perform like she did in UConn, because I don't think you drop 20 points in college almost every game and don't perform well. I mean, I guess the lights can be a little bright, but I really doubt that she wasn't going to be good. As for this Wings team, that's a little more to be desired, I guess you could say. I don't know if the entire team is going to be as great. I mean, I don't know if she can carry them to a better record. But I think that it leaves to just be said how they can build throughout the season. I think that with a lot of these teams in the W is just like who will be able to outlast each other the longest in a really long season. And maybe I'm too down on the Wings, but I don't know. I don't think that it will be awesome. I gotta say. I think that it will be a building year, definitely.
I totally agree with that, but I also think that we should pay more attention to the depth in the front and the back courts because guard positions for the wings seem to be like all over the place when it comes to versatility, as well as the front court. I mean, with the backcourt, they have like Buckers, but they also have Harris. Um, I don't know how to say this name. I'm so sorry, but Ogunbowale.
I know
We'll talk
exactly.
about that in
I
a
know
second.
exactly.
But I just think having that, but also an experienced core in the WNBA that they already have is really going to help them as they rebuild. But I wouldn't expect them to be like on the bottom tier coming into this next season.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's a great point. They do have a lot of good players. It'll be interesting to see how they can come together to kind of make something good happen for them. But unless you guys have any other kind of W things that you're looking forward to, things you've noticed from this off season, I think that will be just about it. This weekend, obviously, a lot of games going on. Tomorrow, we have the Lynx and Wings playing, Dream Mystics and the Sparks and Valkyries. All should be all very good matchups. And then on Saturday, we of course have our Aces and Liberty out in Brooklyn. Sky Fever will play after that, and the last game of the weekend will be the Storm and Mercury. Um, but so a lot of really exciting basketball to look forward to. But that will be it for us on All In today. Make sure to follow WFUV Sports on Twitter, where we will have you covered with updates from Liberty games um, out at the Barclays Center and so much more sports content. I've been Gabby Price, joined by Kurt Sippel and Mary Hannah Gallagher, and this has been All In, a women's sports podcast, a production of WFUV Sports.